Hey y'all. Well, here's another case of another negligent funeral home. They have buried someone in the wrong cemetery plot. Okay, and the family is extremely irate over this. This happened in Pennsylvania. It says a family in Fayette County was irate after finding out a loved one was buried in the wrong cemetery plot. After what felt like an eternity, After what felt like an eternity for a grieving family, the body of Norma Suba was finally moved to her final resting spot. However, Autumn Kubina Workman said getting here didn't come easy. I was really distraught, heartbroken that someone could be that careless to not pay attention to where they're putting someone's loved one at. Funeral services for Autumn's grandmother were on Saturday, and she was buried at Lafayette Memorial Park in Grindstone, Fayette County. She was buried at Lafayette Memorial Park early in the afternoon. My brother stayed behind to see. They put my grandmother in the wrong spot, Kubina Workman said. She was buried on the opposite end of the cemetery. She was supposed to be buried next to her husband. The family thought the cemetery would fix the problem that same day. Autumn said she came back to the plot to find plywood covering her grandmother's vault, and the flowers from her funeral were missing. I know they didn't know my family. They didn't know my grandmother, but she was a great person, Kubina Workman said. All we wanted was an apology of some kind from the corporate office saying we are sorry. Instead, Lafayette Memorial Park spokesperson released a statement saying, in part, in this instance, we have fallen short of our standards. The matter has been addressed, and we want to reassure our families and the local community that we are committed to serving them and their loved ones. I don't think anyone wishes this for their family member, Kubina Workman said. Now that Norma's body is in her now final resting spot, the flowers have been placed on her grave, and her relatives can finally grieve with peace of mind. The family said Lafayette is reimbursing them $300. That is the extra fee to bury a loved one on a Saturday. I mean, this is ridiculous. What is the purpose of this? You know, seriously. They had her plot was already, she had already paid for a plot next to her husband, okay? They had already dug up the plot to bury her in it. But then they covered it up with plywood and moved the flowers from her funeral to a different spot in the cemetery to bury her. Does that make any sense? Because it sure doesn't it makes no sense at all to me. I don't even understand what the motive of that would be. I have no clue. I mean, I have tried to figure those type of things out, and I don't understand what the what the motive for that is. I just don't get it. I mean, that's strange to me. I mean, they obviously knew where she was supposed to be buried at because they dug it up. And her flowers were there. They had her funeral. But they didn't put her in that spot. They moved her somewhere else. I remember a long time ago in Daytona Beach, when I lived in Daytona, there was a funeral home. God, what was the name of that place? It's still the cemetery is all of this place is still open. Okay, but I think someone had to have like a body exhumed or something, and when they had to have the body exhumed, they had found out that multiple bodies were buried like in multiple plots. They'd have like 2 or 3 bodies buried in one plot. I never understood what the motive was for that. You know, the only thing that I can think of in that instance is maybe, and I mean, this was just a motive to make more money, and to be able to sell as many plots as they could. I do live in Florida, and in Florida, a lot of people aren't from here. A lot of people weren't born and raised here. And a lot of people will get buried, okay, like out of town, people that have out of town family members that may never come back to visit their loved one in a cemetery. So they would never know if this person had their own plot or not. That's the only thing that I can think of, because that's the only thing that makes sense in this instance. That's the only thing that would make sense to me. And so instead of burying them in their own plot and taking up more room in the cemetery, I would look at it like this. They probably think, oh, well, their family member will never come back and visit them, so let's just throw them in here, and we can just keep making money on plots. Because none of this, they're making a lot of money. A funeral home makes a lot of money. Burying someone it's not cheap. If you don't have insurance, life insurance and all that, it's not cheap. And I don't know. I think that was what that was. Okay, but this right here, it's either just stupidity or negligence, or it could have been, I can't even say the same example as what I just told y'all about the funeral home in Daytona, because it's not the same thing. She had already paid for a plot next to her husband. That's where she should have been buried. But they're reimbursing them $300 for having a burial on a Saturday. To me, they should have given them more. I know the family probably doesn't care about that, and it's not all about that. It's the principle of the matter. They sat there and went through all of this to have their loved one dug back up and put back in the correct plot. So here, we'll watch this.
Place focused on your academic and personal.
The wrong cemetery plot.
So what was the reason for the mix-up? Amy Wallace explains how it all happened new at 6. The mess-up happened here at Lafayette Memorial Park in Grindstone, Fayette County. The family demanded it be fixed immediately, but that didn't happen until a few days later. After what felt like an eternity for a grieving family, the body of 83-year-old Norma Suba was finally moved to her final resting spot. But Autumn Cabina Workman says getting here didn't come easy.
I was really distraught, heartbroken, that someone could be that careless to not pay attention to where they're putting someone's loved one at.
Funeral services for Autumn's grandmother. She was buried at Lafayette Memorial Park early in the afternoon.
My brother actually stayed behind to see, and
mother were on Saturday.
And they put my grandmother in the wrong spot.
Buried on the opposite end of the cemetery. She was supposed to be buried next to her husband. The family thought the cemetery would fix the problem that same day. Autumn says she came back to the plot to find plywood covering her grandmother's vault, and the flowers from her funeral missing.
I know they didn't know my family. They didn't know my grandmother, but she was a great person. And all we wanted was an apology or some kind of, from the corporate office, saying, we are sorry.
Instead, Lafayette Memorial Park spokesperson released this statement. In this instance, our standards. The matter has been addressed, and we want to reassure our families and the local community that we are committed to serving them and their loved ones.
I don't think anybody wishes this for their family member.
But now that Norma's body is in her now final resting spot, the flowers have been placed on her grave, and her relatives can finally grieve with peace of mind. The family says Lafayette is reimbursing them $300. That's the extra fee that it costs to bury a loved one on a Saturday. Reporting in Grindstone.
I mean, no, nobody should ever have to go through that. It just, and it doesn't even matter whether they know them or any of that. That is their job, to bury someone in the proper place. And it just disgusts me what these funeral homes and these cemeteries are doing with these bodies. It really disgusts me. They're so negligent, and and a lot of other things have been going on. But in this case right here, I mean, this is just ridiculous. It is absolutely ridiculous. So, y'all, bring attention to what is going on with these funeral homes. I mean, people need to know what is going on. And luckily, thank God, I mean, it's a good thing that her brother did stay behind to see. And he saw that they buried her in the wrong spot. If he hadn't seen that, and they covered up the vault, with dirt instead of, the plywood. If they had put dirt in there, nobody would have ever known. They would have never known that spot right there was empty. It never even had a body in it. It's just, there's a right way and a wrong way to do things. And, it's just about respect. I mean, that is so disrespectful to the deceased, and when you're handling the loved ones of other people, and and you're handling a body, I mean, there's ethics. I mean, you got ethical morals. You've got to have some type of respect, and these people do not have any respect. And it's not just this right here. It's a lot of these funeral homes. They have no respect for the deceased whatsoever. And to be honest with you, it scares me. It scares the crap out of me. It makes me wonder what's going to happen to me when I die. I mean, I know we don't have any control over that. But at the same time, something needs to be done about these careless individuals that are running these places, that are doing all these negligent, despicable acts, and it's terrible. It is really, really terrible. So y'all leave your comments and feedback below. If y'all would like to send me anything, you can do so on my email, or you can add me on Facebook and send whatever you like through there. If y'all have not subscribed to my other channel, please click on the link down below, subscribe, and don't forget to hit the notification bell. Till the next time I talk to y'all, have a wonderful day, and don't forget, I love y'all.